Recording.
Welcome everybody to Sunday morning service. We're so glad that you can be with us in person and in the recording. And the weather right now is absolutely gorgeous here in Oregon, and we are so appreciative of being able to bask in the sun. And in Oregon we don't get a lot of the sun, so when it does show up, we're so very grateful. So our speakers today are going to be myself, Reverend Madge Peinkofer, and Kindra, Reverend Kindra Gans, and we're going to be sharing the podium. So welcome, and hope you guys enjoy our messages, and we look forward to the participation in the comments, in our comments below. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is May 16th, and our opening prayer from the Home Center Ministerial Team, our prayer minister, Reverend Joe Peinkofer. Creator God, we thank you that there is nowhere we can go that is void of your presence. Since in your presence we are blessed beyond measure, we truly are blessed. May we live a life of thanksgiving in this beautiful creation. Fill our hearts and our minds with your love and light, your gift to our life. With love, light, and compassion in our hearts, we are your miracle. May we express joy when times are testing our mettle, be in strength when times are hard. May our love and your peace that is overflowing heal our world and all the peoples it supports. In God and Christ, love, light, and joy, this beautiful morning. It is so. Amen.
Hello everyone, happy Sunday. Welcome to our Sunday service. Very glad that you're with us. So the other morning I was outside at the break of dawn, which is rare, but such a good moment. And a very special moment, and I'm trying to create more moments like that. And as the sun was coming up, I was just greeting the sun. I said, hello, good morning. I feel like I've known you for a long time, many moments of communion with you. How are you today? And may I have a message? That was my little conversation with the sun. And I heard the word worship. And so I was standing there with my coffee first thing in the morning thinking, worship, okay. And all of my rebellious human ego, indigo child, feminist training said, worship? Like bow? Do you want me to bow to you, sun? And the sun said, no, I am your warship. When you're in your battles with yourself, in the middle of your ocean, in the middle of the turmoil, in the middle of the waves, when you're in the battles with yourself, inside of yourself, or in the battles outside of yourself, I am your ship through that war. The light that I shine is your guidance and your ship that carries you through. I thought, okay, that works for me a little bit more than bowing. Thank you for that message. And I continued to listen, and I said, well, I kept feeling this draw to bow, this thing about my crown chakra to bow, and I resisted it with all of my heart and soul. And the sun started to speak to me about the sound E. And we have a teacher here at the Home Center who teaches sound meditation. She's a brilliant teacher, and she's taught us the sound of our chakras. And they go from the root all the way up to the crown. And the root sound is and then it goes u, o, I, a, e. And so the crown chakra has the sound of E. And these thoughts started to run through my mind as I was communing with the sun, about how when we want to submit to a connection, when we want to follow, we use the sound E. When we're children, we say mommy, daddy. And then there comes that certain point in development, somewhere between like 5 and 7, where all of a sudden it's not mommy, it's mom. Because it's embarrassing to express that submission or that alignment with the sound E. And even in our romantic connections, we use these words like baby. Like why? Or your partner is not a child, or sweetie, or honey, right? All of these words of connection that have that sound E. And so I was listening to this conversation, especially around submission. So, because that's the next triggering word the Son said to me was submission, to submit. And of course I resisted that with all of my heart and soul and feminist training. And the word submission is also a very touchy word. So then I started to think about the word submit, and then the word submarine. What is a submarine? And a story started to play through my mind of a submarine is under the ocean. And then I heard, well, not really under the ocean. I mean, if it was under the ocean, there's rock there. So it's in the ocean. It's within the ocean. A submarine is a machine that has the wisdom to move within the ocean. So submission, this conversation as it was coming to me, is the wisdom to move within the mission. The wisdom to move within the mission. Submission, to submit. And so I asked this then, well, what is the mission? And I heard the mission is to evolve into a living embodiment of Creator's unconditional love. And so I said to the Son, well, that is a very hard thing to do here on earth with everything that's going on. And the Son's response was, yes, I know. That's why you need a worship. That's why you need to worship. And so with that, I kind of let those waves of humility come through me, releasing my patterning and my training about submission, remembering the sound of E. And so I decided to bow, and I said, thank ye. And then I went inside and had more coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee! That's right. That's right. So thank you very much. That's my message for this morning. And now have Reverend Madge.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for all those metaphors. Ooh, I love metaphors. They are so fun. And what a great message. Thank you for that little journey and taking us on that journey with you through your relationship with the Son and your experience of the Son and your experience of the worship experience. I like that very much. So my topic today is going to be faith in action. So today I'm going to share a few thoughts about faith is action and the action of faith. Hopefully it's in harmony with just what Kindra talked about too. I think it'll play out real nicely together. So I've heard terms and phrases for many years. It's a catchy phrase, and I knew it was important. I've heard these terms. I've always responded with my ego with like, oh, that's good. You know, when people talk about faith in action or faith is action, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good, but I really have no idea what it is from the inside. It's like, I don't know what faith in action really is, but it sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. I want to be on board with it, but I'm going to fake it till I make it kind of attitude, because, I don't know. But actually, there's two phrases that I kind of want to play out together here. One is faith is action, and the other is God is a verb. So we're going to just kind of marry those two phrases together. So years ago, I received a book that is called God is a Verb, Kabbalah and the Practice of Mystical Judaism. It's a lovely book. I enjoy reading it from time to time. I read a few pages, get a little inspiration out of it, put the book away, and wait till next time. It's usually how I read books. I read for about 15 minutes, get something out of it, and then I close it and I live with that little concept for a long time and see how it plays out. Well, you know, in this book, it's from a Jewish perspective, and as you know, we're not Jews, as we don't call ourselves Jews, but Jesus was a Jew. There wasn't Christianity yet, so Jesus was a Jew. And Jesus went to the temple to learn mysticism of what we call metaphysics, and he was learning from the rabbis and the Magi's. Those were his teachers. So they were the ones who knew how to travel hundreds of miles in a couple of hours. They knew how to be invisible in a crowd. They were the ones that knew how to protect the women who were the carriers of light to get through the city without being seen or threatened. Women such as Mary Magdalene. So they were the ones, that carried this really deep wisdom and this deep knowing and this activity of what Jesus manifested for us. So let's go back for a minute to basic English. Basic English, a verb is an action word. So if faith is an action and God is a verb, then faith is what we call being one with God. That's the action of that. So if we were to use the word running, that's a verb. We would call it run. That's what I did. I ran. So if faith is what we call an action of being one with God, that's the verb. That's the action. If God's the verb, the action in relationship to that verb is faith, and that's the action of what we do. So God's not out there somewhere. God's within us. It's right inside of us. We're one with. So when we're in a state of faith, we're in a state of one with God or spirit or universe. This isn't the way I learned about faith. Typically, faith is what we do when we give up. Faith is what we do when we've exhausted all other options. If we're in a healing with somebody, we're doing healing, we're feeding them well, we're doing energy work, and then if none of that works, our languaging is, well, we've tried everything we know, so now we just have to rely on faith. So it's the action of giving up, and that's what's left. But I believe it's all backwards. Faith is not what we do when all other activities have been exhausted. Faith is everything we do in love. Faith is the energy work. Faith is the good food that we feed them. Faith is the loving presence that we send to somebody in that healing activity. Faith is also when we allow ourselves to be still and hold that sacred environment for somebody in a healing environment of prayer. Knowing that our prayers are taking hold, knowing our prayers are having an effect, is having faith. That's the action of it. It's not absent during the action of healing when we're healing with love. Faith isn't absent from that. Faith is what that activity really is. So we're acting in faith when we listen to that small, still voice inside of us that tells us what kind of food would be good for our family. It's faith that's channeling the love through us when we're doing healing activities for people. And we might have slipped into judgment when the outcome doesn't come out the way we think it should or the way we wanted it to. But faith trusts that the right action is happening for that person's highest and greatest good. Marianne Williamson teaches that faith is an aspect of consciousness. What do you have faith in? Do you have faith in your fears that they're going to happen? Or do you have faith in your intentions that you've laid out before you for the universe to create with? Marianne she puts it very nicely. She said, the disciples that were out at sea with Jesus, they were in a big storm. And the disciples were thinking they were going to go down. They're probably going to die. They're getting tossed around the sea. They were afraid. So they called upon Jesus, and Jesus said, "Oh, ye of little faith." He didn't say, "Oh, ye of been lacking capacity to walk on water." He didn't say, "Oh, ye of the capacity to calm a stormy sea." He just said, "Oh, ye of little faith." So he addressed their belief, not their capacity, meaning that they had more faith in the storm that it was going to take them down than they did in their own capacity. They didn't have the trust in God that the right action was going to happen. So in thinking about this, I'm reminded of when Joe and I were first engaged to get married. We went to Buffalo, New York to visit his parents. and we had Jason and Rachel with us at the time. They were 7 years old, 5 years old. This was how old they were when Joe and I first met. So we're on a plane. We're going to New York, and we're coming in for a landing. And as it always happens, you know, the pilot makes the announcement, and then you hear the gears go down and clunk, you know, into place. Well, we're coming in, and you hear the gears try to go down, and they didn't work. Pretty soon it comes back up, circles around again. I'm terrified. And we do this several times, circling around, trying to come in for a landing, just grinding underneath our feet because we're right over the landing gears coming down. Well, oh ye of little faith, called Madge, did not trust, and I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I felt like the disciples facing the storm. And I went into intense fear, and you know, here I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I just met the man that I love for the rest of my life I'm going to be with, and then it's all over. It's just my luck. We're going to all just die. And I look over at Joe, because we're seated separately, because I've got one kid, he's got one kid, so we're on two different aisles, and he's across from me, and he's laughing at me. And I'm thinking, this isn't funny. We're going to die. And he's watching me, he's laughing at me as I go between hyperventilating and holding my breath, you know, gripping the seat. And he said, it's going to be all right. He said, you have to believe it. Well, I felt like the disciples. I'm ready to wake up Jesus and say, get calmness, get these landing gears down. And it did eventually. After several circles, they finally kicked in and came down, and I breathed, but felt like the disciples while Joe was laughing at me. He wasn't worried. But what action was I engaged in? I was engaged in the action of crashing and dying. That's what I was engaged in. My belief, or call it faith, or the energy of my consciousness, was focused on what I feared the most, which was, you know, crashing and burning. I wasn't engaged in the way Jesus said to the disciples. I wasn't engaged in God commanding my storm to calm, or the right action happening for my highest good. I was totally engaged in the lower vibrations of fear. Poor Joe, he had to work double time. He had to work to neutralize my negative forces and to work on the plane itself. He sent an energy through the plane to work right, and so he had double duty that day. Mm-hmm. Phew, he probably slept extra, had an extra nap when we finally got there. Anyway, but you can command your stormy seas if you take action, and that action is one of being with God, and that is the action of faith. And Jay teaches us to pull the energy of the earth, and that's another action of faith. We have faith that it's there, and we pull upon it, and we know that it's available for us. We can't see the energy around us, at least most of us can't, but we have to know that it's there, because we see it manifested on the other side. We see the action of that energy, and that's faith. We know that it's there. Listening to your spirit people giving you guidance is knowing that it's there and having the faith to act upon those. Praying is another action of being with God. Going into the depths of your darkness, knowing that you're not alone, is one of being with God. Observing beauty in nature is one of being with God. That one's an easy one, right? Is the beauty there if you're not looking? That's a, tough question. We have to have faith that it is. Is God there when we don't believe in it? Yes, it's there, whether we believe in it or not. We're never alone. And whether you engage with it or not engage with it, it's still there. It will always be there. So we're the drivers of our own faith. Faith is not the last resort when all else has supposedly failed and there is nothing else for you to do. Now is when we need to leave it up to God to take care of. We do the best we can, we do our part, and we co-create with God, knowing that it's being taken care of. All of the actions done in love up into and including letting go of judgment of what we think should happen, is faith. So let us engage in faith. So let's just take a moment and relax and have a little meditation. And find those places in us, in our heart, where we might have a little hiccup in our faith, in our trust. And feel that little bump in the road and allow ourselves to release that bump and let it go. Allow yourself to just rise above it and look upward in your consciousness, knowing that even if you're having a difficult time, even if life is throwing lemons at you, even if you're down on your luck, that support is there, that God is there, helping you through the storm, guiding you, whispering into your ear, lining up the circumstances in your life so that in that next moment, in your tomorrows, things will line up for your best good. And just have that faith. Really feel that strongly in your heart. See it in your mind and accept it. Release all the barriers to it and accept that everything is working out for your best good. Everything is going to come your way if you just release the barriers, release the fears, and step into faith, even if we can't see where that next step is. And know that we are so loved and so supported, and that everything is happening in its right time. And let it be so. Amen. All right. So Jay wants to say a few words. He wants to share something. Do you want to share it now or after we have the closing prayer?
It's up to you.
I don't know what you're going to say.
Let's do it now so it's on the recording.
Okay.
I guess when you have platinum hair, you can sit. It gives you permission. You know, I just want to say thank you for I've been on my holiday this last couple of weeks. It was an interesting one because a year ago we planned a vacation and I planned a trip and said I'm going away, and all I could think about is, well, it'd be nice to have people serve me food and have all the benefits of just doing nothing for a couple of weeks. And then I found myself over here enjoying that wonderful vessel called the hospital. And before I got over there, I was out in the backyard, and I was, the ice storm left a lot of trees down on the ground where they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be up there. And I was cutting them up and putting them in piles, and I'm thinking, this is a labor. It'll go on forever, because I couldn't figure out how I was going to get it all done. Well, I'm sitting over there in the cruise ship called Salem Hospital, eating my meals, and a group of them come and joined, spent a whole Saturday just having fun putting it together. And you left me out of this one. I don't know which was, who got the short end of this one, I can't tell you, but I'm thinking, all that work, and what's so much fun about it is because when you do it as a community, it's not work anymore. It's feeling each other, feeling the pride, feeling the joy of being with people of like mind, feeling what it's all about. And that's what these two speakers did today, talked about the feeling. And I really thank you all, those of you who showed up and sat out there and had all that fun, and I cheered you on wherever I was at that moment in time. And I'm thankful for you. And when my prayers, and all the people are sending out prayers of healing, you can feel them. I've always done them for other people, but I never thought what it felt like coming back. And there I am laying in the bed and looking out the window, and I'm thinking how wonderful it is to be alive. And you could feel the ocean of the sun dancing on you, feel the ocean of the air, the people, and the connection. And all of a sudden you realize, I'm not alone. I'm not alone for a moment. Because I have to open the door to accept, come on in. If I don't open the door, I'm alone. But I opened it up and said, come on in, I need you. I want to share what your talents are, and I'll try to demonstrate what you've given to me. It's useful, and that's what we are, that's community. That's what we are here for. I remember a number of years back, I came to Oregon, and I went to school for the deaf and hard of hearing. And I'm a hearing person, and all the deaf community invited me to a party. I'll tell you, I never had so much fun in my life as I did at this party. Nobody's speaking, nobody's signing, and I'm the mute one. They're the conversational one. And I never really felt community like I felt then. It wasn't words, it was action. It was feeling of acceptance, feeling of the joy of being together. Regardless of what's going on, we're together. And it's a joyful time, and it's that song, let's make a joyful noise unto the Lord. I'm thinking, God, isn't this wonderful? In fact, that's what I came to this earth for, was to make words flesh. What does it feel like to be joyful? What does it feel like to touch? What does it feel like when someone says, I love you? And it isn't just words, but it's a feeling, it's emotion, it's a connection. And if you're not connected, you've missed it. Oh, they're just words. Well, they are just words. But did you open the door to let the feeling in? Did you let it happen? And that's why Home Center's here, is to help us go beyond just the word, but letting the feeling, what does this feel like? It gives you a connection. Without the connection, we're just shadows walking around out here. And we're bored. We either take too many drugs, or we do something foolish, or we find ourselves smashing a car up or whatever, because we don't like our station of life. And it's saying, who shut the door? Who shut the door on this? And that's why I take a moment too, is thank our dear friend, who's no longer with us, Miriam Silva. She's now over there, and she can talk to us anytime. Are we going to turn on the radio and listen? Because I imagine she's seeing what we can't see right now. And how wonderful for me. Sometimes people think you don't notice, but I knew spring would come because she'd come walking in with her sandals on and no socks. And I'm thinking, oh, spring is coming. And she made words flesh when she talked to me. When she talked to other people, and sometimes when she wasn't even saying words, she was making emotions flesh. You could feel what she is expressing to you. And it was always a delight to interact with her. And we would exchange, and it was always like, my door is open, come on in, let's talk together, let us share a moment. And that's sometimes, I wonder if we forget about the maker over there. Can we take a moment, open the door, and share a moment? Share you gave me a life to come down here, I'm playing the game, and sometimes I forget you gave me permission to come and do all of this. And some of it, I've maybe went the wrong way. I rode the boat up the wrong way. I'm supposed to be going downstream, we're going upstream, and I'm running into everybody. But it's a learning exercise. It's learning how to communicate verbally and non-verbally. And that's what she was a walking presence of. And when she'd come in, the room just seemed to lighten up. And you could feel it when you were up. I was standing at the pulpit and I was talking, and you could feel the energy coming back and forth. And a number of times I've had congregants come up and say, you were just talking to me. And I thought, don't you know you were sitting there thinking and I was answering your questions. You don't have to be verbalizing it. Your presence, your receptive attitude, reaching out and says, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I have to make a sound, or do you know that I'm there? And is your door open to accept what I'm sending you? And that's why healing works, is because you open the door and make it work. And this is what Miriam used to even we talked about in the silent moments about healing. And even though she bought a tank behind her, years were added on because we talked about this is only an extra tool, but not verbally, but we talked is soul to soul. And she said, I'm in case, but it doesn't mean I'm not hearing. And when we send prayers, when we send blessings, when we send healing, it is received if we open the door. And there's an exchange coming on. And we are community. And we're community in God's Spirit. And now we're on physical form, but this does not preclude that opportunity. And on this glorious day, when I look outside and the sun is shining, I'll bow my head. Yep, glad you're there. And when the rain is trickling all over me, I'm saying, I'm glad I need a shower anyway. It is the pride of being here. So next time when I'm going to think about a vacation, I'm going to make it some vessel. A building is safe, but a vessel is better. And with wisdom that even exchanged with Miriam, I know now she can now talk to me again. Anytime, any place, say, Miriam, how's it going over there? And she can talk back to me. I know when I was a kid growing up, my mother said, when you talk to dead people, you're crazy. I stand first in line to be talking to them because they have a source, a library that I haven't even a clue what it's all about. But it isn't words, it is being, feeling, and sensing the magnificence of the moment. Thank you, Miriam, for walking into our lives and sharing the time. I'm glad you've been with us. In Godspeed, and I'm going to be listening. Thank you all. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Amen.
Our closing prayer this morning for our services. Go for better eyesight. God, prepare us to actively live the words spoken to us by Reverend Madge and Reverend Kindra this morning. Help us apply these words in our everyday life. Our spirit enables us to live lives of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. We are thankful for the works of Spirit in us, so we can serve one another and in so doing build up our church. God, we come to you in gratitude for blessing us with spiritual family and friends. Thank you for how our life is enriched by the fun and companionship we enjoy with them. We thank them for the support they give us, thoughtful advice, helping us with things, their unconditional love, and even words of caution or correction. Help us to bless them as much as they have blessed us. In God's name and Christ's light, love to all. Amen.
Arms around the world, around each other. Arms around the world, sisters and brothers. Arms around the world.